Sorry, I didn't have the microphone on. So I'd like to move those other minutes. Councillor Tavendale, thank you. And seconded, Councillor Kingham. Thank you very much. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye. And against? That's carried. Okay, we now move to the only agenda item, which is the Economic Development Manager's report. So welcome, Mr. Quinn. Hand over to you to lead us through the report and to answer any questions.
Thank you.
If you turn your microphone on, thanks.
Right then. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I take this opportunity to introduce Melanie Jones, the Business Attraction Recovery Manager. Mel has been very involved in a lot of the community and business consultations. And so if any questions do arise on that, and also her work in the destination management strategy, then Mel's in a good position to be able to answer those for you. I'll take the report as read. The highlights really, I think, are that we have performed very well through the last year. We have performed better than the New Zealand average. And again, we have a very quite robust economy in terms of our primary sector focus. That, of course, as we pointed out in the past, is fine if we don't get a primary sector disruption. So we have been talking recently to the large companies, both here and also across the border, the Alliance Works, the Oceania Dairies, to try and have a relationship with them so that if anything else comes up as a surprise, then we have relationships we can build with. We've done quite a lot of engagement with the business community recently. The highlights really have been that there are a number of assets that we have that are not taken advantage of. You know, that our great outdoors, it's lovely to enjoy, but we don't leverage it in the ways that we possibly might be able to. Heritage and events. One of the other challenges that's come up out of that has been, how do we get the right skills for the future of work in the next 5 to 10 years? We're not even sure what that work will look like. But so we are working quite closely with the Regional Skills Leadership Group for Otago to try and keep a Waitaki input and focus into that as well. One of the other sections in the economic report was about the housing growth that's been reported on in a recent Oamaru Mail article. I mean, it's great for the district. I think COVID has forced a new mindset focus for people on home and all the various things that means. So it's been very good for our local construction industry. It also means that people can move through the housing stock. As people move to new houses, then other houses become available for other people who have different needs or different purchasing power. And I think those are the highlights. I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, councillors and Mr. Neil, if you have any questions as well, feel free to ask. Does anyone have questions? Just on the mention of the housing, I think it'd be good to note that the council is working with a number of other parties to look at some possible solutions around expanding the housing stock and yeah, looking at a number of the issues that we have in the housing market, whether it's for first home buyers or availability of social housing or community housing and transitional housing and so on. So there's a bit of work to be done in that space, but yeah, it's certainly something we're very aware of, and if we can find the solutions and that benefit the community, then we will be progressing that as we go. Councillor Hopkins, you've got your hand up.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, page 19, destination management. There's a couple of things there, if I can ask. You're collaborating, the ED team's collaborating with Tourism Waitaki to progress the Waitaki destination management strategy. So, question: how does that strategy, or how will that strategy dovetail with promotional campaigns and so forth? And which, in your view, should come first?
The destination management strategy is the primary driver and the remit that I'm delivering against. The plan, the promotional and media marketing campaigns would be part of the plan, which is the second phase. So at this stage, we're focusing on getting the strategy developed, which then will have a clear vision, a clear identity for the district, key drivers of what's going to drive growth. And then we'll work out what's the right governance structure to put in place to manage that overarching strategy and plan. And then we'll get into the implementation of the plan. So the marketing piece will follow.
Okay. Yeah, so it might be that the destination management strategy might produce an outcome that says that the way to sell the district or the area is not to promote it as a sweet spot, but something else? Or would that be incorporated in the strategy now that it's out there, or what?
You wouldn't get into the specifics of a specific campaign, but what we would be saying is what makes this district special and unique and differentiated.
Okay.
And so you look at what are your core attributes, and we're already seeing them. One of the interesting things in the work so far is the diversity that this district has is significant. So we have a number of themes that we can play out that can then target different audiences. So that will all be part of the development process as we go on.
If I could possibly add to that, Councillor Hopkins, that perhaps the plan will create the framework where the campaigns will be asked to align with the identity that we associate with in Waitaki.
Just two very quick supplementary questions unrelated to that. The last two paragraphs, you talk about a meeting with the Mackenzie District Council's ED team and a range of matters you discussed, and also the Otago Southland Regional Tourism Operations met in Oamaru on the 27th to look at how they might collaborate on MBIE projects in the future. Is there any additional information you can give us on either of those encounters and engagements, please?
Yes, I'll do the first one. So we're working, Mackenzie are actually sitting on the Destination Management Governance Group because we recognise there's huge parallels between the two districts, and visitors don't differentiate between one district and another. So we want to think a bit more holistically about how we drive people through Waitaki and from Mackenzie back through. So we've had a number of regular contacts just to talk about what are some of the opportunities, what are they putting into their plan, and how can we leverage that, pull that through on ours. The second one I'll let Jared talk to.
Thank you, Mel. And maybe just to finish off on the first one, the term Mackenzie can apply to the district council boundary. It can apply to the valley, to its bits of interest. So we do have a crossover between Mackenzie Destination Management Strategy and the Waitaki Destination Management Strategy. And we're very conscious of making sure that we swap information, because some places up the top of our valley are in both strategies. And look, it may be that in the future, as Mel mentioned, the geographies of how people think about things are very different now than TLA boundaries. So we may want to find ways to cross-sell our opportunities and itineraries with Mackenzie, say, without, obviously not ignoring the north and south, but there is a great already people flow going down that way. So maybe we've got an opportunity there. In terms of the 27th of July meeting, I have requested an update from Tourism Waitaki, and they've advised that they have a reporting channel direct to the Executive Committee and will report back to you directly.
Just also comment on that destination management planning that's happening both in Mackenzie and in Waitaki. We've been party to some of the discussions that Mackenzie have been carrying out around destination management, and they, we continue to be challenged by the fact that we're seen as a stakeholder in our own district, which is, not ideal. And during discussions on their plan, there were constant references to Mackenzie District when they're actually working right down to Kura in our district. So there have been constant reminders to them that don't use district if they're coming into our area, use Mackenzie Basin, which is the broader area. So that it incorporates what we know as North Otago as well as the South Canterbury that Mackenzie is in. So yeah, it's a bit of personal pride on there, but also actually a bit of pragmatism as well. Councillor Timdale.
Just on page 21, and I don't know if you guys are the right ones to discuss it either, but it's around the geopark, and I've raised it with the Geopark Trust as well. I love that the emphasis has been placed on education for our young people. I think that's fantastic. but I'm just still seeing very little come through, and I don't know where really to direct the comments, but around sustainability of what we've got. I feel like we do a lot around marketing, a lot around education, and we've got sites there that aren't going to be there in the long term if we don't find a way to actually manage them better. And I feel like that's the missing piece of the puzzle that's just not being dealt with from what I can see. Just would love your comments on that.
I can pass on, I attend the meetings of the trust to ensure that they're still connected very much to council, and they have communicate how appreciative they are of the support that council is giving them. Geopreservation, which is the term for trying to protect the sites, is largely a matter of consultation engagement with a wide variety of landowners. So private landowners are one group. You have all the way through to Department of Conservation managing sites such as the Meraki Boulders. So that's ongoing by the trust at the moment. Probably a prime example of that would be the trust working with the owners of Elephant Rocks, looking at can we do something to improve that site by leveraging government money. So that's about protection as well as letting people have access to it.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely one of the core drivers in the strategy that's being developed, and it is just working through where do we start. So we're prioritising the hero geo sites, which would be Meraki Boulders, Elephant Rocks. Clay Cliffs is a really interesting one because that is quite vulnerable, has a lot of visitors, but of course it's privately owned. So with all of the privately owned ones, we have to go very sensitively and work with them to understand what do they want, what do we want, and then work together to achieve that. But it's the core of geoparks is protecting our key assets and protecting our whenua.
Yeah, I guess that's probably one of my main drivers is, you know, Clay Cliffs is a really good example where it's unfettered access and you've got a huge number of people in there and it's not being controlled in any way or form. And it still concerns me that we're pushing the visitor element of that there before we've actually got the checks and balances in place to make sure they're going to be there long term. So you're probably not the right people to be telling that to, but I just want to keep that front of mind because I think that it needs to be not talked about as often as it is, but it needs actually action.
With the landowners there last week and to request a meeting to start that conversation, and they said we're too busy at the moment, but give us some time and we'll come back. So, you know, with that, the onus is absolutely on us to keep moving that through, on the trust to keep moving it. No, thank you.
Right, thanks very much. Do we have any, Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah. I missed this before, but just following on from that, this proposal involving the English Riviera Geopark in South Devon to be involved in the Green Space Dark Skies project, how definite is that? Is it going to happen here? And if so, when? And basically, looking here, people are going to be holding wireless programmable. What's it going to be and will it happen and when?
I have some information provided by the trust. The English Riviera Geopark are driving the proposal to seek funding from the UK Festival Commission. They are thinking of themes at the moment. The connecting theme seems to be our oceans because, you know, the Waitaki is a ocean geopark effectively because of its being on the seabed. But we have links to islands, navigators, links to Matariki through navigation, fishing, stewards of our marine environment. So at this stage, they are putting the bid into funding from the UK government. We would look for local sponsors and we would help the geopark do that, but it would not be, they would be going to funding organisations for events for that funding. And there is a technology provider in the UK that also is a large technology provider in New Zealand. So that's been investigated about the company here carrying out the technology for it.
It's at the very early stages and they approached us proactively, which is fabulous. But it's scheduled for May, June next year. So yeah, so we'll be working on that.
The advantages for Waitaki are obviously international profile.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I'd like to, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question around the engagement with business communities. Who and where have we engaged with in the Wahimo ward?
There are a number of ways of engaging. We've engaged with large corporates. We've invited certain people to business after fives because you can't fit everyone in, and we've selected people that are driving local communities. And also for Mel's been doing work in retailers, surveys and strategies. We've been working progressive, I'm not sure what the name of Progressive Palmerston, if it's changed or not, but groups trying to advance Palmerston and Wahimo.
Yeah, so we sent out a survey to over 300 businesses. So all the businesses that we could find across the district. So Wahimo would be included in that group. We had quite a small response, in fairness. We only had 45 people responding, but we've got some useful insights from that work. So we're kind of building a database now of insights that can help us going forward.
So that's 45 in total to the 300 sent out.
Okay, would someone like to move we receive that information? Councillor Tavendale and Councillor McRovey second that. Yeah, I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, that's carried. And with that, that finishes our fairly brief meeting. So thank you very much to staff for contribution there. And we'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.